Bonjour.
Bonjour, ça va?
You should do the That's the intro to camera. Hello, divers. Hello, Jess. Welcome to Dive in Wonder.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so
Merci.
much for being here. Je t'en prie. So this podcast is going to be in French, actually. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you.
Just for a bit of context before I let you introduce yourself, Jess is one of my favorite people in the entire world.
Oh, thank you. Mutual babes.
You know that. And yes, I think not only as a friendship, but I think like you are also one of the most inspiring women I've met artistically as well. And I love how your brain consumes and creates. And I think it can be really useful for people to hear how you connect ideas and how you see the world.
Thank you. We can take it off
Being
voice
here.
memo on iMessage.
I know, and putting it into the
world.
podcast. I'm gonna try to be very mindful of giving context and not assuming everyone knows you as well as I know you. But could you give a brief introduction of Yasmin in whatever way you want to?
Brief introduction is grew up between Bali and Sydney. Have a very strong connection to Bali. Going to Greece for the first time in 2 weeks to discover that side of my heritage. My mom's Greek. Grew up being a very type A personality, very ambitious, very studious, which then translated into becoming a business owner. And very early on, my first job, having a really bad manager, I said to myself...
How early on?
I think my first job was I was 16. I was a Christmas casual. I won't say where it was, but it was a jewelry store.
I'll look it up.
I was forced to wear hot pink lipstick. And it was kind of in those moments where I realized that there are some really bad people in management positions who are not only incompetent, but also uninspiring for the next generation. And so I thought, I need to do something that means that I can run my own business and try and be an example, because I wasn't experiencing that from people in leadership positions. So that led me on to create Culture Machine, which is a production company. I did everything from talent management to studio managing to producing to directing to photography, all of the above, only to then recently consolidate that and focus on directing, specifically for TV and in ads, and eventually, you know, fiction, short form, maybe long form one day, who knows. But yeah, so I guess the long and short of it is I was very motivated from a very young age to be a leader and to be somebody who could kind of create opportunities and open doors within an industry that I felt was pretty closed off. And that happened parallel to the development of social media and the democratization of knowledge that the internet brought. So it was a really good time for those two things to happen. Okay,
nice. I'm really curious, and this is something I've told you, but I'm so curious about like young Jess. Just because I know you were very studious and very type A. In my experience, a lot of the times that was not the same people. They were not the same people that were really social and were really able to connect people and to lead and to create those environments. So was that something that you had to work on, or was that something that was always natural for you? Like, how were you socially as a kid?
I was always a social butterfly. I'm a Sagittarius, so it comes with the nature. You know? Love to connect, love to talk. Also raised by a mother who is the epitome of a networker. Like, I learned from a very young age that everyone you meet is important in some way, and not from, a lot of people confuse that with opportunism, and opportunism is a dirty word in this industry, at least. But I would say that opportunism comes hand in hand with optimism. So you meet someone and you're optimistic about the opportunity of creating a friendship or relationship with that person. Whether it turns into monetized relationships and work is less interesting to me. It's more the opportunity to connect with someone.
So that came from like you seeing your mom
my mom
with crate and everything.
Oh, she is the best example for that. Like, I just see her talk to people all the time.
Okay, because just in terms of context, you truly are insane when it comes to understanding people's strengths and getting people together. And I've said this to so many people over the past, because it's like an art form to see you arriving to social environments, and it's like separate from you. I feel like you go to like a third eye point of view where you're like, who can connect, who likes this thing, who's good at this. Like, I feel like you just have this ability to connect people's energies. And then I meet so many people in Sydney that were introduced to some of their best friends, to some of the people they work with, some of the most important people in their lives by you. So it's this thing that you are not like, you arrive to the party and you just go like boom, 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 like matchmaking, and then you just go do your thing. True. And it's like absolutely insane to watch. Because then at the beginning, when I met you and I saw you doing it the first times, I was like, it's because she knows these people for a long time. So she has that knowledge and then she can just do it. But then I've seen you doing that with people that we've just met. Like, we arrived to Paris. Like, you would leave her in like a bar or something in Paris, and then she would just like, I would leave and I would come back and everyone would know each other, and then they would have someone that they knew in Bali, and that like, and it's like insane to watch. And I think like we've spoken about this in other contexts with some other friends that like are like, maybe that's not their strength necessarily, but how do you feel when you make that approach to new people, for people that struggle with that? Like, why is that so easy for you? Because you've had more positive experience out of it, or like, what are you trying to see when you meet someone? Like, how do you approach that? Because it's really rare.
Yeah, I think I learned, again, like from a young age, that being an extrovert is a real gift. And like, I'm not religious, but I went to a Catholic all-girls school, and I remember that one of my teachers said to me, this was about singing, because I could sing and I had a voice, but I was really nervous about it because I was nervous about being a show-off, even though I am a show-off, but I was nervous about it. And I remember her pulling me aside and being like, you know, you have a gift and your voice is a gift, and it's actually a disservice to whoever gave you that gift not to use it. Take the religion out of it. And
it was for like church choir.
It was for church, you know.
Okay.
And then I ended up doing the solo at the town hall and whatever. But if you take not just my singing voice, but my voice and my ability to talk and how easily it comes to me, I had to see that as like, it's a gift that has to be given. So she was like, if somebody gives you a gift and oops, not the mic, you have like, part of the kind of contract, I guess, that you get from getting a divine gift
I love that.
is to share it. So I guess I was like, okay, well, I have the gift of the gab, as they would say, which is what it's my mum's kind of terminology, which is the gift of being able to talk. And I'm like, okay, well, what's awesome is that when I come across someone who isn't naturally extroverted, I can facilitate a friendship for them or a connection, and that's awesome. So I guess I see it as a gift that I have to give away, and it becomes more and more powerful the more I give it. So that's my sort of spiritual, philosophical approach around it. And then I guess like, I'm like deeply curious. I say this all the time. I'm deeply curious about people. And so I think it's like, I can fairly quickly understand what somebody is interested in because I go beyond surface level chat pretty quickly. And then
because you ask the good questions straight away, which I think that's like one of the things that is really important for people that struggle a bit more to like meet people and socialize, is the type of questions you ask will have such a massive impact on how much you're able to connect in a short amount of time as well.
Yeah, and I think like part of being an artist, and particularly in filmmaking and storytelling, right? You're constantly asked, what is the universal question that you're asking? You know, how does your piece of art, how does your script, how does your film, how does that relate to the universal human experience? Is there a universal human experience? Things like love and loss and heartbreak, like all of those things are things that we share. And so I think that like if you can distill everything someone's talking about, it will always come down to like one of these key pillars. And that way connecting with people is, you can connect with anyone. Because there's key pillars, I think, that we all share.
When did you start getting into those questions as a kid? Like, when did you start focusing on art and feeling like that was going to be your calling and your direction?
I mean, I was really lucky because I grew up in Bali, so I was surrounded by art. And Balinese people are extremely creative, like music, doing things with my hands. I was always watching my dad do things, like he would build a kite like from scratch, and then we'd go and fly the kite. And then my mom was enrolling me in all these extracurricular activities like painting and ceramic stuff, like, And again, like my mum was my teacher from kindergarten to year 3, and she studied in sort of a similar space to well, my brother went to Montessori school, which is it's a type of teaching kids where it's quite self-directed. So it's very different to the traditional Western education where it's like, here is the curriculum, learn it, do the exam. It's very much like, do you
we
feel
have them
like
in
it?
Colombia. Yeah.
So I guess my mum wasn't.
Do you feel like it?
Yeah, do you feel like studying today? Me and my brother are very different in that sense, but my mum took this approach that was like, you need to experience all of the arts and every single medium and try it all, and then you will find out which one you resonate with more. And if you can learn the violin and then you can use a paintbrush, you can also write a screenplay and you can also write a poem. Like all of the skills that you're learning in those mediums actually come together. It's like that's how my brain works.
She's insane. Yeah, she's insane.
Yeah,
in
I was
so
very
many
lucky,
ways.
very, very lucky with my mum because she had such a unique way of educating me.
And of being, which I know like there's no one's perfect and there's both sides of everything, but I feel like something that I saw in her when I first met her that I recognized was her ability to take up space as a woman, which I think it's one of the hardest thing for women that didn't grow up seeing that to then try to grow. And we are trying, and this generation's trying, and we try to do that through like books and podcasting and films and whatever, but it's really hard for us to get out of that because I think like generational wise we have fear, and taking up space has been dangerous for past generations as well. So I think you being able to grow up seeing her take, because she takes space when she enters.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? No, but like she does. She doesn't have this apologeticness thing about I need to hide and stuff, which I think like helps heaps in like the way you move through the world.
Yeah. And I think another contributing factor is like I didn't drink all of my teens, and I did that specifically because I kind of made a contract with myself where I was just like, especially once I came to Australia and I was like going to high school in the eastern suburbs and stuff, everything was like UDLs, getting drunk on the weekend. What's UDL? They were like, do you remember what UDLs were? They were like these like really sugary alcohol drinks, whatever.
Okay.
And
vodka pops.
Yeah, and like the goal
like
was,
the mix, the ones that are already mixed. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the goal was to just get so fucked up that you'd like end up in the gutter or whatever, and that was a good night. And I just never resonated with that. Like I didn't want to do that, and I think I saw pretty quickly that a lot of the time it was drinking in Australia is a crutch for people because they don't want to talk. And there's like deep-rooted shit that they don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's why the pub and pub culture and I'm like, don't even get into masculinity in Australia. But I just noticed really quickly that it was a crutch for people. And so I was just like, if I can do this for myself, where I go into social situations as an Australian teenager and not drink, how do I talk to people? And then it got to, I was 21, like 16 to 21, or when do you start drinking here? 18?
Legally. She was legal when she started.
Yeah. So
you got to 18.
Yeah, and I got to 18. And I said to myself, I just don't even want to start drinking. Like, I don't need to. But those were the real fertile training ground years of pushing through discomfort. And it's like, what's the worst that could happen? You know, you get awkward, you trip over your words. What's the worst that could happen? And what I noticed is that people were actually so grateful for the conversations I was having with them, because I was just like completely sober and being like, yeah, but how do you actually feel today? And like, oh, well, if we want to talk
opening
about
up so much, right? Even though they were not sober.
Well, I mean, sometimes, yeah, if they were not sober. But to be fair, like, when particularly like when I lived in that house with all those boys, the more drunk they get, the more they want to really tell you how they feel. Yeah.
And you being sober is such a strength because then you're just sitting there getting all the information out and remembering it.
Yes, exactly. So perhaps a part of my confidence in social settings comes from the lack of drinking. Particularly
That's so interesting,
in my early teens. Yeah. The fact that I don't drink or rarely drink it's not a badge that I like to wear, because I don't have a problem with people drinking, you know?
Yeah.
And like when we were in Paris, it's just kind of like a wine here or this there. Like, I don't have a problem with that, but by and large, I am not interested in drinking. But it's not, I don't want it to be like a personality trait, you know?
But I remember we spoke about that when I was telling you about the feeling left out, because I told you, I didn't drink until I was 24. And then I drank sometimes, but then I hadn't related it to social experience either, because I hadn't drank before. So I didn't understand why people were like thinking they were braver when they drank and everything. And then not knowing how to manage that equilibrium was really funny when I was talking to you about it, because I was like, oh, I never drank, so I thought, but now I feel like I don't handle alcohol either, which then just becomes a thing where you're just like, why am I playing this like I'm old to be trying to play like what a teenager is playing right now at 16 when I already have the confidence not to be there. But it's interesting that I think in everything in life, whenever you're using the crutches, you don't develop that ability.
Exactly. And I think my primary goal with it was like, I need to get to a point where I know myself, but also where I know discomfort. I know awkwardness. I know what it's like to have a jarring conversation. I need to feel it.
Yeah.
So I know, oh, worst case scenario, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it feels like this. So,
and then you're not afraid of it.
Yeah, and I think like, so I was competitive public speaker when I was in high school. So I would like go to across
this is the
state.
most just thing.
Yeah, second in the state.
I did debating, so
yeah, third speaker. I mean, come on,
Okay.
So it's a thing, and I think like it was really interesting for me to read this statistic about like how some people are more afraid of public speaking than death, and I'm like, put me on a stage, like I don't care if there's like 1,000 people in the room, because the thing is, as part of the competition, we would do our planned speech and then we would go in for improv. So you do your planned speech in front of all these people, and then they put you in a room, they'd give you a topic on a piece of paper and you'd have 5 minutes, and then you would have to go out to the crowd and just speak about something. And so the training that you do for something like that is that you just have to be curious about things, and you have to kind of like go, you know what, this week I'm really interested in AI.
Yeah.
Read a lot about AI, and then when you go in and you see the topic, you somehow relate it to the thing that you're already interested in. And I guess what I realized is if you are just interested in things, it's easy to talk. Because you're like, I've been deep diving this thing. Let me tell you about this nugget of a thing that I'm interested in.
Interested and present, which I think is something that you're really good at. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why people are really scared of. Because if you're really, really, really present in public speaking or speaking to people, you're not that scared, because I think you're scared when you're thinking like, what is this person thinking about me right now? How am I looking? And then you're thinking what you did yesterday, and then you're thinking about the last interaction you had. But if you're actually present, caring about what the person's saying, I think that already takes out a lot of that fear.
That's 100% part of it. And I guess the other part of it is shame and embarrassment, and so much of what I think Australian culture is pushing people down. So I really had to kind of go, if I stand in front of 1,000 people and I fuck up and I forget what I'm going to say and I go red, and that happened to me once.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? I walked off stage. And you know what? No one remembers.
No one cares.
And so I guess I put myself into those situations to feel the edge. Like, what is the edge like? And then when you see it and you go, it's not that bad.
It's not that scary,
and then you can do it again and again and again. I wish I had that for heights, because I don't. But I think what I need to do is look over the edge.
So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to film it next time.
Exposure therapy. I don't play games like that. But I think, I guess I've put myself into uncomfortable situations socially to experience rejection and experience being bullied and experience being made fun of. And then at the end of it, you're kind of just like, oh, that's the worst that could happen? Okay, well, whatever. I'll just keep being me, and then no one remembers the next day. And also, if you've ever read Brené Brown's book, what is it called? Into the Wild?
Into the Wilderness.
Into the Wilderness. Yeah. She talks about the Colosseum, and she talks about some people are in it and some people are watching.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to be in it. And like part of that is that you might mess up and you got all these people around you judging you. But would I rather participate in life in a passive way, just, critiquing people, or be in the ring?
And I guess that's the same approach you took to filmmaking straight away, right? In film school. Because how was that? How was your getting into because you were doing all these arts growing up and dabbing into everything and understanding you had a voice, singing, and understanding like it's the same energy, you just have different tools. But when did you go, okay, this is what I want to do, and started getting obsessed about it?
I was again, like my upbringing in Bali was just so amazing because I was surrounded by so many artists and people who had found themselves in Bali because they were running away or actively rejecting some form of westernized, regimented culture. So like a lot of my mum's friends were people who had very fascinating stories about how they ended up in Bali. And a lot of them were artists and whatever. So I was introduced to cinema really, really early on. Like I think one of the first films I remember watching was City of God with my best friend's mum. Yeah.
How old were you?
Well, I would have been maybe like 8 or something. I think, or maybe,
a hardcore
maybe it was
film
on
to
a,
watch.
it maybe was.
This
on a school
explains a
holiday.
lot.
But I remember, but like he's a photographer, and so like obviously it's like a pretty fucked up film. But I was just like
beautiful.
so obsessed with the main character being a photographer, and then I guess later on realized that what I gleaned from that film is that the photographer had access to this world, and the way that he got into that world and had a safety net in that world was with a camera. And I then took that mentality into New York and Paris and London and everywhere I went, and I was like, I can connect with people because I'm holding a camera.
And you took that mentality with your family, no? Because you took that with Kai as well.
Yeah, that's a whole thing, like where we feel more comfortable talking when there's cameras recording.
Yeah,
But
Kai
I'm
is
still
Jazz's brother. But that's crazy because you just understood people will show you a different side.
Yeah, and I guess so. And also like in Bali, we didn't have the same access to TV and stuff. Like I wasn't watching the stuff that other kids were watching in Australia because we'd have to get DVDs and VHSs and stuff. So the stuff that would get left over was like the adults. You know, I was really always surrounded by adults. So the kids in Bali, like particularly I think anyone that's experienced being like an expat kid as well, like you do grow up really quickly. So yeah, like I remember watching City of God. I remember watching The Birdcage. I remember just like all these like, I guess I developed like a
And going
palette.
like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, and being like, wow, like movies. Like that was my experience of movies. I wasn't watching.
Were you also going alone then?
This was like in the lounge room in the villa.
Okay.
Yeah, with like my friend and her mum. Or literally just me and my friend.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there was like a stack of VHSs and there were all the classics. So yeah, I guess I was lucky to have been exposed to this really diverse palette of art and cinema, in particular through my mom and her friends. And then when I graduated from high school, I thought I wanted to go into law because it was like if you got a high ATAR, like you go get law. ATAR is like your mark.
like the average, right?
And I think for me as well, it represented like being an intelligent, strong woman was a lawyer. And then I was like, wait, I don't want to do that. I want to make films. But it was like a lower threshold to get into that degree or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why would you do a BA in the arts? You know, it's not going to get you anywhere. And I remember my first lecture at uni for film studies was, welcome to film studies. 90% of you will end up waiting tables. So good luck. And I was just like, oh.
Beautiful
so I
thing
went
to
into
say.
a degree just consistently being told I won't be able to work. And that it was a luxury and kind of just like a silly little thing to do when you don't know what you want to do with your life. But instead, I just became so invested in cinema and so like I still come back to that curriculum whenever we talk about cinema. I'm like, everything I know about Spanish cinema, Chinese cinema,
Yeah, you
Australian
reference
cinema,
what you studied
it's
so much.
all from that
which is-
curriculum at uni. Yeah.
And like within that, did you feel like already before, the moment you decided that you wanted to go into filmmaking, did you feel like by that point, because of what you had already done with your camera as a kid and everything, did you already have a sense of your voice? Was that coming true, or when did you feel like you started understanding that a bit more?
I think I'm still trying to understand my voice.
Yeah, we will always be.
Yeah. I guess I knew that like thematically, things I'm really interested in. Family, I'm really interested in family, especially diaspora, like being kind of second, third generation. I'm interested in the dynamics of, families that come together and also bring the world with them too. So that's something.
What do you mean?
Like, you know, I've got the Greek side, I've got the Balinese side, we're living in Australia, and these kind of like hybrid identities that come out of family and people coming together to build a family, but at the same time kind of having to navigate culture in that as well.
So you're talking about your voice as in you were discovering your voice through your curiosity. So the things that you were trying to understand.
Yeah, like
you also think that's your voice?
I think my voice is, or what I'm trying to say in whatever I
as
make,
an artist,
is motivated by my curiosity about family and family dynamics, but also power. I think we've talked about this a lot. Like when I was asked, I was talking to a screenwriter about, you know, where do you go from kind of verbatim putting down conversations you've had with friends to writing a screenplay?
Yeah.
And he was like, when you start thinking thematically. So like you may have had a conversation with somebody, but what's the big theme? And I was just like, every conversation I found interesting had something to do with power.
Yeah.
So I think my voice, or at least what I'm trying to say as an artist, is exploring power, soft power, hard power, how you acquire it, how you lose it. I've said this sort of stuff before, but particularly for women, you know, power is something we really want.
But that's and we crave, and I feel like we are also afraid of it in a sense of like we do know, and we've spoken about this in like personal situationships and stuff. But personal situations like that, you kind of like know that you could really have power in something as a woman, but you just don't want to tap into it sometimes because you don't want to hurt people, because you don't want to be that person jumping into it. And I think power is really interesting, like as you exploring it from your perspective, because I think you also, and I've said this to you, but you are also one of the most empowering women I know in terms of just example to be around. Because I think that it's not only the taking up space, but I think like the way you assume your power over your own life and over your own art and over situations, and the way you kind of like fight for your pitches and for your creative vision has been like such like an educative, like it's taught me so much to see you fight for a vision when like you're choosing music, when you're choosing something like little things, but that actually most of the people I'm seeing all the time are ceding power in those moments because they're already like, I already have this position, I already have this job, I don't want to overstep my thing here. Yeah, and I think that one of the most important things to then explore now is how do we push that also into generations in a way that like I think we need to reframe power. Because when you think about power, what do you think about who gave you that power? Like how was this power given to people? Or do you think power is something that you kind of like through your life and through what you end up doing, you claim to the level of consciousness that you have?
I think that like there's the macro and the micro views of power. So like on a macro level, by and large, men have power. Like if we're looking at patriarchy, men acquire power and they are given it in many cases via birthright, you know, like they're born into a world where patriarchy is the structure that we live in. And so men tend to have more power. But then I think women, particularly our generation, we're exploring different ways of acquiring power. And we're also probably one of the first generations, I think, I don't know what the statistics are, but financially independent, we have career success.
Yeah, I've said this all the time to my friends right now, like going through separations and freaking out or stuff like that. But we are way too new to our rights when it comes to that. Like my grandma in Colombia couldn't own a credit card.
Yeah.
If she was not married, like she couldn't own a house and she had 5 kids, so like not being under a male's power used to mean death, or like you were in the street and not able to feed 5 kids, you know?
Totally, but I think then if you start to look at, for example, earlier we were talking about Fashion Week and critique of influencers. I think one of the really interesting arguments that's been made about this just overarching hatred of influencers, it is deeply misogynistic. The influencer industry is one of the biggest industries for women to make money, and they're monetizing by and large their beauty, their appearance, all of those things, and society has a problem with that. Society has a problem with us monetizing and also us saying
and taking space.
Of course I'm beautiful, of course I could get paid for that, of course I could use my appearance,
of course me showing up is enough to be paid because it means something about right,
but we have so much shame projected onto us, like how dare you accept money for selling yourself, right? And I think that that's made me really think a lot, because I just don't think we're critiquing men in the same way. Like, how dare you make that much money for being the CEO of that
And just
company?
sitting there, yeah. Yeah.
How dare you make that money for the amount of work that you do? You know, so but for women, how dare you make
and then
money
you
for
must not
posting
have
on
like
Instagram?
no social life and not care about anything else. Yeah.
So I guess,
And I think the shame thing is a massive, I think that's one of the things when I'm telling you that like you learn by example and by seeing people around you. I feel like another thing that I've seen, not only in you, but like Sarah, I've spoken to you a lot about that attitude that Sarah has as well, which is, I think, yeah, my two best friends. It's like the type of thing where I see that a lot of the shame in women, the way it's implanted by patriarchy, it's also this competition. And both of you, like, you've got zero of that approach to life and to other women around you. Like, okay, hi, I'm around women, this is a competition, which is a perfect way for patriarchy to then install shame. Because I feel like a lot of the shame, I don't know how you feel, but a lot of the moments where I acknowledge shame, either in others or I realize that I'm having feelings that are not really like, they don't make sense to what I say I believe, but I'm feeling shameful for something. A lot of it is towards other women. You know what I mean? Like, men, yes, and men will have that, but I'm more afraid to be judged by other women than by men into that competition. Women that, you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So then it's like that thing where we're like implanting the bombs. It's like really smart way of keeping us in that whole thing, because it comes from us.
Yeah.
Because the moment we're like, oh, girls, we're actually doing this together, then it's like,
so there's this theory,
power just goes like,
there's this theory that I've been really interested in for a long time. It's the panopticon. So
I don't know
like
what that is.
in prisons, there is a guard tower, and the implication is that you're constantly being watched. And so the guard tower in a prison was kind of the inspiration for why we have CCTV everywhere in modern cities. And the idea behind it is that if humans feel like they're being watched, they'll self-regulate. So the way that you maintain order is that you tell people you're being watched constantly.
Yeah.
And so you go, oh, I can't do that. Because if I take a left turn where it says no left turn, somebody's watching.
Yeah.
The police are watching or whatever. If I trespass onto this property, there's a security camera watching. So you don't do it because you feel like you're being watched.
Yeah.
If you apply that idea to social media, we're all watching each other. So what's happening is we're the ones kind of regulating each other. And I think that is very much embedded into our minds now, because we're self-regulating, we're censoring, we're filtering everything we do through the eyes of a perceived audience of friends and clients and whatever. And that is the panopticon, I think, playing out in tech and social media.
but it's so true. And I think the problem is that it's so deeply like unconscious, because sometimes it is like, and this is a random example, but I don't know if I told you I did this, but there was a situation with someone in my past where I was like, I had to like hide my stories from this person, only because I know my stories are becoming a performative act when I know this person's watching, even though I'm conscious of it. He's not a bad person, like, but I can see myself completely changing my like everything I'm gonna post is gonna be a performance just because I know someone's watching.
Yeah.
But I'm conscious of it because it's a big thing in my past, but probably we're not conscious of like the whole lot of the rest, which is then like a great segue for me to ask you what I wanted to ask you in terms of like how much you post, your approach to what you choose to show and what you choose not to show. And that's something that we've like talked about a lot when it comes to your humor, because you do work through social media a lot as well. So it's not like you're hidden in like incognito. Nevertheless, you do have a very specific social media persona, which doesn't mean she's fake, she's a part of you. But I speak to you a lot about this all the time because your humor, and there's a lot of like the jazz I know that is not that jazz. And you've chosen to like keep her really to certain people and to us and stuff, which then I really like wonder if that also comes from the director point of view of wanting your art to speak for itself, or if it's only like then a self-protection thing that you've developed because you've been under a camera for a long time, like with Kai and everything. So I think it's also a habit for you to stay private, right? Like how have you navigated that relationship?
So I was talking about this with my mum on the way here. Actually, we were on a phone call, and one of the things she taught me growing up, it's a Shakespearean quote, which is just like something about your name is your jewel, and my mum, as in like your rock, your jewel.
Yeah.
And my mum said to me from a very young age, like, your reputation and your name is worth more than anything. So you need to be very conscious of the way that you are projecting yourself out to the world and to other people. And that's from small private interactions with people to public interactions with people. Your name is so important. So that's what I grew up with. Then I got my first access to social media when I was 23, and my brother went viral for being a funny guy. At that time, we were living in a house with a whole bunch of, boys in Bondi, whatever. And it was the time of Snapchat and Instagram where we really weren't totally conscious of what posting online meant and what an audience means. The power, the virality.
Because this was like 10 years ago.
The way that you can't erase anything as well. Like even when you think you've removed something, there's a way to get it on the Wayback Time machine or whatever.
Was it already being monetized at this time?
Very, very slowly starting to monetize. And so we had a couple of scary incidences when my brother was at his peak with like stalkers and stuff like that. So we recorded a lot of stuff out the front of our house. It was pretty recognizable, and then before we knew it, we started having stalkers and people who would come up to my brother in public and kind of try and rouse him or things like that. And I started to realize actually this is a little bit scary. Even like to this day, a lot of my reason for not posting, like I'll never sort of live post a story, is genuinely for security. Yeah. As a woman as well, like if you show the path that you walk often, there's some scary shit as well about how like they can actually figure out the layout of your apartment the more you post. Also things like reflections in sunglasses. And I mean, look at the Kim Kardashian trial at the moment, and when she got robbed in Paris, they found out where she was from the carpet. Like the print of the carpet, which is why I was reading, apparently the Kardashians, the reason why they Photoshop a lot of stuff, I mean, their bodies and stuff is one other thing, but the location is so that it's unrecognizable. So they'll Photoshop the carpet and stuff, anything that can show where they are. And I started thinking about that a lot because I was like, we're really just posting out here. There's also a film called Ingrid Goes West that I watched years ago. And it's a comedy with Aubrey Plaza in it, but it's a dark comedy about a girl that becomes hyper obsessed with an influencer, finds out where she shops, where she goes for coffee, and basically approaches her as if they have all these common interests, but she's just been able to study her. So anyone could come, I mean, the fact is
anyone can study
people can come to me, they know who my brother is, they know who my mum is, they know my cat, like my mum's cafe. There's already a lot of information out there. So I think for me, part of it is privacy, and the other part of it is more of a soul level thing. I have said many times, and this is what I'm making my doco about, is that like, I entered into an industry where, knowing it or not, I became a product. I turned myself into a product, and I monetize that product every day. And so there's parts of me that I think it's really important to keep because I want to own something for myself. And I don't think that I need to give that.
So what's the line between that and what you spoke about earlier regarding sharing your gifts? Because there's parts I'm just being like devil's advocate right now.
I don't think everyone deserves it.
Your humor, for example?
Not everyone deserves it. And not everyone, it's not even not everyone deserves it, not everyone understands it. So whilst I think that the other thing that I think we need to start realizing is that not everything is for everyone. Okay.
No, it's very niche, but
I'm actually really passionate about this. Like people, for example, who complain about the radio and they go, I don't like this song. There's Spotify for a reason. You can literally curate what you want to listen to. You don't have to do anything. We are in the most hyper individualistic, hyper curated period of our lives right now. Like, if you don't want to engage with something,
You don't have to.
in our privileged context, you don't have to. You don't have to listen to that music. You don't have to read that. You don't have to listen to that podcast. You don't even have to look at that influencer. You can unfollow or block or mute. So I think that it's important to understand that, you know, with cinema, not everything is for everyone. And that's the point, you know? So I think for me, when it comes to like sharing parts of myself, yes, what I think I have as a gift is connecting people, and part of that is humor, and yes, I will give that out as a gift, but the deep sort of my individual personality and how I express myself and all that sort of stuff, I will give to people who are my friends, who I trust, but I'm not giving that to the world. Not right now. Certainly not on TikTok.
Yeah.
They're just not the audience for it.
Whoa.
Nobody's properly processing anything. I also don't trust anyone's even watching the video. You know, so much of what we see online is misinformation. I mean, beyond the political side of it, it's like people are not watching TikToks for less than 3 seconds before they're in the comments section saying something. I'm not making content for you because you're not watching it. You're not watching it, or you're reading the Spark Notes, if that.
I agree. I'm not saying I don't agree. I'm just saying there's moments where I've like told you this, and like there's some like stories that you've done with rants that I want to film and share. I'll never do that, but there's stories that you've made that I'm like, I want women to hear this because I know I'm really privileged. That's like because I choose my friends in a certain way, but there's like conversations that you've sparked that I'm like, there's so much shit content out there. I would want people to be listening to this, and I know there would be the people, but I understand you want to keep that to yourself. But you know what I mean? There's like stuff where I'm like, yes, it's great to see like a Saint Laurent campaign and it's beautiful, and then the fashion is beautiful and it's a different type of art, but there's some other parts that like that's why I always like make that joke with you, like at least make like a paying like
Patreon vibes.
We'll see.
I've thought about it.
We'll see. I have time to convince you. Or through what you do. Your humor comes across through your art, and you've been like working on that more lately.
That's what I was about to say. I'm like, I don't think that. Also, I'm hyper aware that a bunch of ad agencies and clients and stuff, they're trolling TikTok looking for nuggets of ideas and stuff like that. I'm not giving that to you for free. That's my IP. No, I'll put that into a screenplay and make something later, because that's the other problem. People are just giving out freely. Your IP, the way you live and breathe and exist in this world, and your unique lived experience, that's worth fucking money. So like, don't give it away for free. But on a spiritual level, don't give it away. But on a capitalism kind of level, don't give it away. Because I know they're out here looking for ideas, and there's some small creator, they're ripping you off. And they've come up, that's an interesting thing, let me use that, you know?
Yeah, which I struggle with when it comes to like what you said about the spiritual level of that, because there's like a point of sharing where I'm like, I have gotten so much from what you would consider oversharing from people, like, but like podcasts like Alexis Fernandez or whatever, which has gone really deep into breakups and stuff, and then I've gotten a lot of it. But then it's true that then it depends on what she does and what she will want to do with that in the future and stuff, and I get that.
But I also, to add to that point, I think the internet is a space that doesn't allow for nuance, and it also doesn't allow for the natural change that people go through. My fear in publishing anything publicly is I might change my opinion tomorrow, next week, next year, and I will never be able to absolve myself of the opinion that I had at first. We've seen it over time. I think anyone as well who's come up in the industry very young, and then they've had to look back on where they were. Like, of course, I mean, imagine if our Facebook posts from when we were 13, 14, 15 were public. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this is the thing. Like, I don't want to make anything concrete, because I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow or the next day. So I'll say it to my friends, like, in the moment, but my friends can understand nuance and change.
Yeah.
The larger public and the internet can't understand that. And also people are hunting for you to be a hypocrite.
And for you to change your mind, But at that point, I was reading in the creative act part of it, he's speaking about like the speed in which you create something from the moment you have an idea. And then he was talking about the fact that sometimes a bit scared of like, we want to include that change and that evolution into what we do and into the art, so that we make sure that we kind of like still hold those ideas in the future. But he was kind of like giving the counter argument of like, yeah, but anything you do as an artistic endeavor is like a snapshot. And Sean Baker was saying the same on the Q&A of Honora, where he was like, there's so many things I did in the past that are actually the building blocks of Honora, that are things I would not do again now artistically, because there's things that I'm just like,
yeah, of course,
that's no, I don't vibe with that anymore. But I wouldn't have gotten to like Honora or what I wanted to do here without having done that and then deciding that this doesn't work. And
for sure, but I think there's a lot more space for that as a filmmaker and an artist than there is as
that's what, but you navigate both. That's why I was really curious about that, because you have like, you're having to play both of these roles, which I think is much easier for a director to not be public and whatever, and then just come across through art like Sean and stuff, rather than I need to monetize and make this Dyson thing, and then I also need to make this thing, and then I need to direct men who need to take me seriously and not be like proven like I'm not only pretty, I can also like know what's up and everything. So it's like a lot of hats and a lot of like balances. Like if I overshare here, then you are gonna know this about my childhood when I'm on set trying to direct you.
Absolutely. It's
know what I mean? It's like a mind fuck.
Yes. So part of it is protection and wanting to be taken seriously in particular rooms. And I think the first time I got, my first big sort of TV opportunity as a director's attachment, I remember being so embarrassed of anyone on set knowing my Instagram.
Yeah.
And so when I was meeting people on set and they're like, oh, let's keep in contact, what's your Instagram? I was so reluctant to give it to them, because you see people's faces, like as soon as they sort of see the number and the blue tick, there's like this shift. And I mean, most of the time it's like an excitement, but they're also kind of like, why, and I don't think that I deserve any different treatment to anybody else. It's a profile, it's a platform, it's what gets me jobs. But people do think of you differently, because they kind of go, wait, how, why, what is this whole thing? But I think also I've had lots of experiences where I was told, because you post pictures of yourself, you won't be taken seriously as a director or as a photographer. Look, I've literally had a producer compare me to another photographer and go, this person only posts their work and you post selfies, therefore we won't be hiring you, we'll be hiring this person. So it's optics too. And unfortunately, we're still, it's this kind of, unfortunately, the Madonna whore complex kind of relates in this space for women, where if you are monetizing your appearance, people are reluctant to take your art seriously.
1,000%. And even in Paris, I remember a director, he was really much older. I spoke to you about him. He was at some point telling me, you can never let anyone know in a casting that you model. It was like, the moment as a director I hear model, I do not want you anywhere in my set unless I'm like casting the wife, the like new hot wife of like a 60-year-old man or whatever. Otherwise I don't want you on my set. So you need to hide that whole thing up until you have signed contracts, and then they can know shit. And that really traumatized me for a very, very, very long time, where I would not tell anyone. I would be ashamed of any job. And the way I would introduce myself in Paris, I would invent all the things, right? Like worked at this, and then I was at the brand. I would just try to not even mention it. And I do think like Australia is a bit more open-minded in that way, and I think things are changing, and there's enough examples. And I think as a director itself, like, it's annoying because the ones that are pushing the boundary and that are gonna help us are the ones that are also losing jobs, because of people like the one that you just said that are gonna say like, I'm not gonna hire you. But at the same time, I think there has to be enough examples of people that are doing both and being really talented at both. And then being like, oh, actually, well, if she could do it, maybe I can give you the chance.
I just had this thought, and I wonder, because I've wondered where this all comes from. It's misogyny, it's a lot of things, right? I think part of it is, have you ever read the book Ways of Seeing by John Berger? It's a small book. It's all about...
Is it good?
Yeah, it's all about sort of the feminine and masculine gaze, G-A-Z-E.
Yeah.
And it's about the way... oftentimes we've seen women represented, particularly in like paintings, art, whatever, is through like the masculine gaze. It's about the way men see the reclining nude.
Yeah.
And so the feminine gaze is kind of like, I suppose, women seeing themselves. And I think part of the distrust that you would have when that person says to you, don't mention that you're a model, is that traditionally directors would have a muse, right? So you would have someone like Hitchcock, he had all his blonde muses. And part of the job of the director was to bestow you with, I am making you beautiful. I am telling you, you are beautiful because you are my muse.
Yeah.
Again, power, right? If you come into the situation and you know you're beautiful and you monetize that, their power is taken away from them. So you're no longer the blank slate tabula rasa, I am the artist, I am the auteur, I made you. You've come into it going, I already know I'm beautiful. And now what? So I wonder if part of it is just the fact that we're cognizant and we see ourselves instead of waiting for somebody to see us and tell us. So if we walk into a room, we go,
and you
I know.
already know it. Yeah.
That's scary.
It takes away
That's
their power.
powerful.
It takes away their power in any situation. The fact that you just acknowledge it by what you do work-wise.
Yes.
It's like an issue because it's like in all the songs, right? Like she's supposed to be beautiful, but she doesn't know it. It's like the cutest thing, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, because I've been talking a lot with my housemate Sophie about the muse and the concept of the muse. And I think at the crux of the muse is that you are indebted to the auteur, to the director. You only are the muse through their eyes. They created you. You don't have autonomy outside of them. And I think that's part of it.
I was thinking about this, watching an interview between Almodovar and Penelope, where she kind of like, she was speaking about the fact that he gave her like an entering into motherhood before, like in a good way, like they've created a beautiful relationship. But it was a bit of that game of like, oh, if I could see you as a mom even before you are a mom, there's that kind of thing. And then that type of thing of, yes, then now I can see myself as a mom and I can see myself in these different roles, and then I'm happy to play them for other directors, or I'm happy to like see myself as this different woman because he gave me that. And there's this weird dynamic which I think has been like also romanticized and enjoyed on both sides.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Because enjoyed on both sides, because then it's a badge of honor towards other women.
Yeah.
As well.
But I think also like a lot of people would love to outsource their identity to somebody else. And I think part of
that's what I mean. Enjoy it as well.
Yeah,
and for sure,
that's part of the sort of self-flagellation of an actor. Like,
and I have felt that. Yeah, you enjoy it.
Tell me, who am I? Tell me. I mean, how nice would that be? So I think some people enjoy that. And I think perhaps that's what attracts people to acting and modeling and so
but also it's like enjoy it, but also it feels safer. It feels so much safer. And we make this joke all the time with my coach, and like it's become an old joke that every actor makes when it comes to slates and stuff. But you'll have a much easier time doing whatever crazy thing it is that you're being asked to do on an audition versus like introducing yourself to a camera and 100%. Being like, hi, this is Matt, and then they make you do this small talk about whatever you talk to them about experience is much more nerve-wracking. And I think the thing is that, again, power. If I give you the power and if you gave me a script, then there's like less weight and less shame in whatever I do, because there's already been like, and I think I've spoken about photographers, like my photographer friends, about this. When it comes to, there is a moment where I actually enjoy you having the power behind the camera because I feel more free. Yeah. And I have had that where if I really trust the person who's behind the camera and their style and their aesthetic and whatever they're doing, I move completely different. There's a completely different thing if I don't feel like I also need to be controlling how I'm you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I'm lucky to have so many actor friends. So obviously I always ask you and Liv and everyone around me questions. Yeah. And I did some stuff in Bali with Liv where I was trying to direct her as an actor. And I remember this moment where she said, do you want another take? And I was like, up to you. What do you mean? And she was like, okay, I'm gonna need to give you some advice. She was like, as an actor, everything we do is for you. Like, you really have to know what you want, because our sense of self and our security is completely given over. So you have to be really certain about what you want. So there is this kind of interesting dynamic.
It's so interesting that she said that. And because she directs as well. And it's so true that you go into a vulnerable place where you need that feedback given straight away. And I think, like, even with Jasper, I say that to him a lot, one of my coaches, where I'm like, what you see, what I let come across, my performance is actually completely different based on, like, after like a while of working together and stuff, based on the fact that I know that you will keep on making me retype stuff if you don't have it, and that if we have it in the first or in the second take, you'll stop it. If I don't have that trust, if I also need to see how it's coming across, because a lot of the times within that realm, this is gonna sound very woo-woo and spiritual and whatever, you don't feel, you're not in complete control. I don't feel like you're in complete control. I feel like you can prepare a lot, and there's a lot of control that could be happening beforehand. But a lot of it just comes out how it comes out, depending on whatever you're doing. And I do think that in order to have that freedom, I need to have given you power for at least that moment.
Yeah.
The issue is that then, as a world and stuff, we're trying to take power back and forth. And it's like, we've spoken about this within relationships. We know we can have power, but sometimes you want to play that. And I feel like with a director and stuff, there is this thing. I know I have power as a woman, and I know sometimes I want you to be, and you are doing what Olivia said as well, because I'm here for you, like, I'm here for what your eyes are seeing, and you need to be directing the energy.
Totally.
Because I'm letting all this energy come out, but I'm not sure how it's coming across. That's where our directors need it. And it's like such a weird push and pull sacred space that you create.
Very, very sacred space. And I think, like, the part that I'm trying to navigate is I am so cognizant of the power that I have when I'm a photographer, when I'm holding a camera, when I'm directing. I'm so cognizant of that power, and I'm so afraid of exploiting people. And it's been a driving force in the way that I approach creativity as well, and collaboration. Like, a lot of people have said to me, like, how do you collaborate with so many artists and so many young people, and like they just go off and have these amazing careers afterwards? And I'm like, because no part of me is trying to own them or trying to control them.
No.
But it's like a really, because you've got to let the river flow.
That's how you, but that's what I was telling you about the way you interact with like social interactions and artists and stuff. Like, you're not trying to get there, like, let's all, you know what I mean? It's
honestly,
a thing, like, about
my brief experience being an agent actually really freaked me out, because you do have control and power over somebody, their career, their identity, how much they're worth. You're coding for that person,
how much they're worth,
you
and their name, and their name. And
there's so much power in that. And it's also interesting for me in the sense that, like, the modeling talent industry is seen such a different way to other industries that operate in the exact same way, where it's kind of like,
what do you mean?
Well, you're puppeteering and own these people, and you make a commission off them. You're making money off them. Like, that's actually kind of a pretty strange thing, but we never question it. Well, like, obviously agents make 20 to 30% or whatever the hell off you, off your image, your likeness. When you're signing these contracts as well, like, what do you mean I'm giving my likeness to you? That's crazy shit.
It's absolutely insane.
But then also, let's take it a bit further into the current context right now. Modeling agencies are dealing with licensing an AI avatar of you. That is real shit that's happening. So it's like, they've been forever licensing our likeness and owning us and our image. Like, many of us who are in contracts, we can't do things without running it by our agent and whatever. And I understand there's a reason for that, whatever. But then when you think about it on another level, there will be a time not so far away where they own a digital avatar of us too. Somebody is making money, not just off the real version of you, but off the digital version of you. So I'm just kind of like, this is as well why I'm like
really
quite protective
freaky
sometimes, because I'm also like,
it's really freaky. I wish I had the actress, but I was watching actually today a video of this girl. I'm gonna try to find the names. Yeah, Jessica Williams. So I was listening to Jessica Williams talk in like a SAG conference today about the way that we're not acknowledging the sacredness in the relationship that there is with an agent and with a manager. And it was so interesting to see that in the way she was saying, because she's like a Black woman, she was speaking about a lot of that as well. But I have navigated this in such a wild way through the past years, and I've really understood that the trust I need to have with my agent and my manager, and this sounds dramatic, but I really believe it's almost as much or in a similar way as the trust and the energetic trust I need to have in someone I'm dating. There's so much of, it's such a vulnerable thing to have an agent, and we all make it like this, and of course it's like a business and whatever, and you make it about what's the name and whatever, and I've seen the difference between having a big name and seeing how people react to a big name, even though the way that is internally going is not really serving your soul.
No.
And it's actually diminishing you, because within a big name a lot of the times comes like the big pound, small, like the
big fish, small pond.
Yeah. So then actually your sense of value, your sense of self, when you're having those inner interactions, is being diminished, but because of the name, you're holding onto that.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the opposite way, where you're with someone who like might have less of a name, you're not even speaking about, but the way this is working is it's in the human way that you would connect to.
Yeah.
And it's insane, because I was wondering, when I was listening to that, I was wondering as an agent how that would, I shared that with a friend, and I was just thinking like, yeah, because you've had that experience as well, but I haven't had that, and I don't really have that. For now, I don't want to do that. That's not something I imagine myself doing. But I'm so in awe of that job as well when it's done well.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like my acting manager in the US and stuff, like the amount of time and speed dating it took to meet the right people, or what I like to meet the right people for me right now, was really ended up coming to like, Natalia, you really need to like remove whatever like ideas you have of like your name and ego and whatever, and just focus on who's this person in front of you. Do they see you?
Yeah.
Like really see you? And the issue is that I found it insane, but like when I'm thinking about the beginning of like life in Paris and modeling wise and stuff, it feels like you're pitching yourself to agents as well. Which now I find absolutely insane to look back and think that I'm like in this like pitching when I'm actually handing over
your identity,
my talent,
career,
and my career,
your soul,
and my
your
most
likeness.
vulnerable place, which is my art, and I'm handing it over
to you.
I need to understand why you're the right person
Correct.
to have that power. And what do you see?
Exactly.
Because you can have, the issue about an agent is like, you can have this picture of like, whatever, this like half Balinese girl that does this thing, and I can like, what do you see? Because that's so important. Like, am I in your box straight away of the Latina that you can, and it's like so much within the questions they ask and within the way they interact and stuff. But I think unfortunately, it takes a really long time of having those interactions for you to get to a point to where you realize how sacred that is, and not just hand it over to anyone that has a good name and then it's going to be a good thing to like have like a stamp of approval.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is wild from like the perspective, like, because you've been in all sides of it, like behind the camera, in front of the camera. How do you feel like, what is your most favorite? We're gonna start wrapping with this one, but like, what's the best approach that you've had from a talent perspective to a director and a photographer? And when you're working with other people, like, what do you pinpoint as the ways of working that have worked the best for you and have allowed you the most freedom and have made you feel the safest?
As talent?
As talent.
My favorite person to work with is one of my best friends, JC, because exactly what you said, he sees me. Like, he can shoot me through an iPhone, like, or through a camera, or through anything. He could do video, he could do stills, he could do anything, and it will be a reflection of the most beautiful version of myself. And that's because he sees me. And I think that, like, in this industry, it's really lacking, because I have been in those situations before where I'm, in and amongst whatever, and I've signed some contract and I've tried to kind of align with a bigger name and stuff, and I always come back to the best stuff I've ever done is independent and with friends and people who I trust. Trust is a big one, and people who genuinely like me as a person. I'm just kind of like,
Sorry, I was trying
did it
to
cut?
be no.
Oh.
It's just, I was giving her a hand out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like,
I was trying to be surreptitious, but...
yeah, I think that it's that whole idea, like, you know, so they said the person who can take the best photograph of you is somebody who sees you and loves you, or at least likes you. And I mean, like, it's true.
That's
all the
so
time.
true, and that's so beautiful.
But
And
like you said, like being a model, you're constantly putting yourself in front of cameras with people who are strangers.
who knows? Yeah.
They don't know you,
people,
they don't see you, they've just met you. And you're like, oh shit, I'm trusting that you capture me in a way that I like. And unfortunately, part of modeling in particular is that you're told very quickly, you need to detach yourself from the image of yourself. If you don't like these photos, it's got nothing to do with you. If you don't like the makeup, you don't like the styling, and you don't like what I'm telling you to do, that's got nothing to do with you. Because today I licensed you, so you better do what I want. You know, and that used to be the way, and that's why so many women have had terrible experiences being models, because they've had to give themselves away.
Yeah, and with that, like, I honestly, like, I have detached a bit in that sense. Acting wise, of course not, but I have detached completely, like, the amount of you know very fast when you're not, when you really don't want to ever see these pictures ever again in your entire existence.
Well, like, even so, like, you even know when you're getting your makeup done. Like, I know straight away.
Oh, you know when you're getting your makeup.
Like,
I know in 1 second. I'm like, I'm gonna do everything I can not to see them, to avoid them, because I'm gonna have a panic attack if I cross some poo in this.
But
I'm just gonna, like,
isn't that funny though? Like, even just on the level of makeup, right? Like, I see myself a certain way and I do my makeup a certain way every day. And when one of the most vulnerable parts of being on a shoot straight away is the makeup artist, because you're straight up like, do you actually see me the way I see myself? Because why
do you want to turn me right now into Kim Kardashian?
Literally, why are my eyebrows so drawn in? What's happening?
Yeah. Literally.
What's going on?
Literally. And lips and stuff. And there's a moment where you completely lose it. Like, I feel like there's a moment in the mirror where you have lost yourself.
Yeah, like, that's not me.
I'm like, that's not Natalia, so I'll use this mannequin I'm given. I'll get the money so that I can pay, like, cinema tickets later. And I'll just get out of it.
Literally.
But because, like, I think with the ICU, it truly does feel like the Avatar ICU.
The what?
The Avatar. I keep on coming back to the Avatar ICU. You remember the ICU in Avatar?
The movie.
The movie Avatar. Jasmine, do you know any other Avatar?
Well, no, I was.
Oh yeah, there's avatars, like the AI.
Yeah. Sorry. So in the movie Avatar, she said ICU.
You don't remember the way they speak
it
about the
very long time
ICU?
ago.
Even the second one?
Explain.
We
it
need to
me.
rewatch it. It's a whole thing, but the way they treat the ICU is the most spiritual thing.
Right.
And it's like the way, almost when they reconnect, it's like the ICU, but
right.
it's a completely different meaning from someone seeing you. Like, and I came out of that film, not to segue, but out of being in a relationship, being like, you can be in a years and years relationship with someone not seeing you. And I feel like the ICU like that when it comes to art matters so much. And I was speaking about it with my friend Cam the other day, because I made a joke about his picture. He took a stupid picture on the party on the phone, and I made a joke about it. And then I was like thinking about the pictures he had took, because I met him shooting a short film. He was shooting the BTS of a short film. And then I was thinking about the pictures he had taken and stuff, and he's the one, his picture is Dive in Wonders, like thumbnail. And I was like, whoa, I have such a different relationship to every picture you've taken. And I understood that, like, yesterday in a conversation where I was like, yeah, some photographers are really good. I really like Jeremy Shaw. There's a lot of photographers that I'm like, I really like your work. But it's so different, like, your pictures of me, Campbell pictures of me. There's pictures of me that I always like, but not in like the superficial, like, oh, I look good, I like how my face, but kind of like, I just recognize myself in the pictures more than I like the picture, because it's like, yeah, that's me. And I feel like it's also just a thing of like, I was able to be there when I was with you, and with some people I'm not able to be there in an 8-hour shoot, and it's fine. And it's what you're doing elsewhere. But it's really interesting to have that from you, from both sides of that.
Yeah. I mean, so much of my favorite photo work that I've done are my portraits, and like the way that I met Yemi was
the way you've shot. No, but yeah.
And I love photographing Yemi. I love it because it's so easy for me.
The London picture. They were one of the first. How long had you known each other?
So we just met. We just met, and I came to her place because we were connected through a mutual friend, and I was doing a portrait series in London.
Yeah.
And I got to her apartment with my Pentax 6.7, and we started talking. And she had the TLC photo on her wall that she's got in her apartment now. And we just sat on her bed talking, and as we were talking, I was taking photos. And that was the beginning of our friendship. And she still like says that they're her favorite pictures.
They are some of my favorite pictures ever, those pictures, and I think I don't shut up about it with you too, but there's something so spiritual about those shots. And then like afterwards, the picture you took of her in Bali, like that like muse
see, that
photographer connection you guys have, it's like
but the
so
thing is,
palpable.
It's so interesting because I would say that we do have this kind of muse photographer relationship, but I never feel like I have more power than she does. Do you know what I mean? Like Liv's always giving me, she's showing me how she wants to be seen.
Liv takes,
she's showing me, you know what I mean? I'm never telling her who she is. She's telling me. I'm just listening.
And you feel like it's the same with JC?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he's just listening.
He's just listening. He just knows.
And do you feel like, have you seen him doing that with other people?
Yeah,
or is it because you're really close friends as well?
He's very, very, very good at it. Very good at it. Yeah. Yeah.
Epic. Well, I have 1,000 things that I would want to ask you, but we have to wrap it up and we'll do part 70. Okay, I just want to close with a very cheesy thing, but I need to ask you this. General, but I guess films, because that's our obsession. What makes something good for you? What gets said to you?
What makes art good?
For you. Like, not in like, not in the technique side of it, but what reaction do you feel like you need to have towards something that you've watched, or what do you need to have awoken within you for to be like, that worked for me? Like, how do I make something work on you?
Well, I have to be so immersed in it, I think. And the thing is, like, I've you know, we go to a lot of festivals, we watch a lot of films, and we watch them from start to finish, and sometimes you dip in and out. But I guess the whole idea is like this suspension of disbelief, right? Like cinema is supposed to suspend you in disbelief. You're supposed to go into the cinema and you're supposed to come out an hour and a half or whatever the hell later and go, oh my God, for an hour and a half, I was transported into another world. That's still what I need to happen. But you don't want to be making references to your own life. You want to be fully in a different space, and then only make the reference when you come out. For sure, I'm still connecting with them, making references. Like, I mean, I remember when I saw Past Lives, and there was that bit of dialogue when she's like in bed with her partner, that really hit you. And you just kind of sit there and you go, fuck, yeah. You know, and you're like, you're understood. You're understood. So perhaps a better answer to that is this complete knowing where you're like, oh, it's almost like deja vu, where you're like, ooh, that feels so familiar to me in a way that this person clearly has lived and breathed something that I have in a way that I haven't thought about before. Which it was literally what I was telling you. I felt like a truck watching a Problemista. Like a deja vu. You have to have lived this. There's no way you're telling me a story you didn't live. Yeah. Okay.
There's a phrase that a friend of mine taught me once called the unthought known.
Oh, the unthought known.
So
wow, I want to write that.
Yeah.
You know it.
The unthought known.
And then you said that's what drives the familiarity of
it. I love that.
I love that. Which I feel is like what I feel all the time listening to your audios and when we're speaking. Like there's that feeling. Yeah, the same as like, it's the thing about like, you connect to, I feel like the only way you really connect to something is because there's some truth that you already know that resonates anyways, that you knew. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for this. Thanks for having me. This was so amazing. That was fun. I didn't know where it was going to go. I was like, I don't know. We never know, but like I wanted to have a plan, but then I was like, whatever is going to come out. It's my favorite way. It's going to be the best way of doing it. Have a gorgeous one. Thank you. Very diverse, and then you need to close it in French. So, au revoir. À bientôt. Merci beaucoup.